It has now been confirmed that the bank which closed Nigel Farage's accounts was Coutts. The BBC helpfully announced this while offering an apparent explanation for Coutts' actions. Nigel Farage fell below the financial threshold required to hold an account at Coutts, the prestigious private bank for wealthy customers, the BBC has been told. So they confirm it was Coutts, and they gave that apparent justification, as also confirmed by Farage.
Yes, the bank that closed me up was Coutts. They're telling the press I don't meet their wealth threshold. Well, they've never mentioned that before in the previous 10 years.
This explanation is impossible, because if it was the case, Farage would have broken the terms and conditions. He would have broken the rules of the account. And closing a customer's account on the basis of him legitimately breaking the rules is not something that any bank would ever be afraid of being upfront about. In fact, they'd write to him, they'd say, "Dear sir, in order to keep your account in good standing, you're going to have to deposit a certain amount to it." And if he didn't, another letter, "Dear sir, because you did not, unfortunately, act on our communication recently, we are going to have to close your account because you are in breach of the terms." We know this is lies, because no bank would ever not tell the customer this. So to make all this a little bit more plausible, surely it is not the case that Coutts, bankers to the wealthy, would change the terms and conditions of their account the day after Farage posted his video. Surely they would never do this. Well, yes, they did. This is what they currently say: clients are required to maintain at least 1 million in investments or borrowing, mortgage, or 3 million in savings. Oh dear, looks like Farage is out of luck if his balance tipped below 1 million. Well, no, actually, the internet never forgets, and these are the last two captures of that page from the Wayback Machine, the penultimate one, March the 30th this year, and the last on June the 30th. June the 30th, why would the page change on June the 30th? This was the previous capture from 30th of March. It's not there. That condition, sitting front and centre now, was absent as recently as March this year, and if you open up the information box, it only mentions opening an account, not maintaining one. So as recently as March, there was no mention of maintaining a given amount, simply opening with a given amount. And the next takes place the day after Farage uploaded his video. 30th of June 23, and now they've added that maintain at least 1 million condition. I assume the Wayback capture happened either automatically because something changed on the site, or the people who manage the site requested a capture from the Wayback Machine in order to archive the page the day after Farage's video was posted. In any event, it is way too coincidental that that change happened on that date, the day after he posted his video on June the 29th, by pure chance. And they don't just archive pages on the 30th of the month. If you look on the previous year, there were 3 different capture dates. And the change was that they added that condition. Previous page capture, no mention. Most recent capture, there it is. Coutts changed the terms. Fine if done legitimately and correctly, but they changed them here on June the 30th because they were looking to cobble together an excuse for the Farage situation. So the obvious reason they didn't advise him about this beforehand, which any legitimate bank would do if this had actually happened, if the customer had breached the terms, the reason they didn't advise him about it was because it hadn't happened. They made the change after he uploaded his video on the 29th of June. Rewind.
They're telling the press I don't meet their wealth threshold. Well, they've never mentioned that before in the previous 10 years.
Of course not, because they did it the day after. This is almost certainly illegal. And not to mention, I wonder what made the bank think that giving out my personal financial details to the Financial Times and the BBC was ethical or legal. I can only dream about the kind of lawsuit that Nigel Farage can bring against Coutts on either basis, either changing the terms and conditions retrospectively, or giving out confidential customer information to a third party, the BBC. I can only dream about the kind of lawsuit that he will be bringing against them. Changing the terms and conditions in retrospect on a customer was something that online casinos used to do all the time. I used to gamble online casinos back in the day, about 20 years ago, and this is something that they would do all the time in order to not pay out winnings they didn't want to pay out. Change the terms and conditions so it looked like the customer had broken rules which they hadn't broken. This is what casinos in the bad old days of online gambling would do all the time, and this is what it looks like. Coutts, Nat West, Coutts, private banker to the wealthy, is now doing to Nigel Farage. And he can bring the mother of all lawsuits against them without any shadow of a doubt.